Hi there, Jim here with Pre-Velo Bikes, and today we're going to show you how to assemble an Alpha 3. Alright, so if you haven't already, go ahead and pull the bike out of the box and get everything unpackaged. And now we're going to break down the assembly of the bike into a couple different parts, first of which is going to be installing the handlebar. So to install the handlebar, I like to just set the bike just like this so it's resting on the fork legs and the back tire. So it's not extremely stable, it can fall down, so be careful while you're working on it. But in this position, all we have to do is lift the handlebar and slide it onto the fork steer tube. Now, it's worth mentioning, the handlebar on this bike is unique. The handlebar and the stem are one piece, they're welded together. That just makes the assembly much easier. It's also just a lighter unit in general. But on the front of this little headset top cap, you'll notice a little tab that sticks up. That tab is going to insert into a little hole on the front of the stem. That's just so that when you put the stem on, it stays straight with the front wheel. Okay, so we're just going to go ahead and slide this into place. And you can feel it kind of drop into place there. It's going to have a little bit of adjustment, so while it's loose, you can look down and make sure that the handlebars are in line with the fork. But even if that has just that little bit of degree off, it's still going to be pretty stinking straight with the front wheel. Okay, now with that slid on, we're going to get our multi-tool out of the parts box and choose the 4mm hex key. That's just the hex key that's going to fit this top bolt, and we're going to drive this bolt into place. Now, this bolt is just there to hold the handlebar on. It's called a compression bolt. It is not something that has to be super tight. So we're just going to drive this down all the way and then just give it a little oomph, and that's it. You're done. Okay. Now, the actual bolts that are going to hold everything tight are the pinch bolts on the side of the stem. These are also the bolts that if you ever need to align the handlebar, you would loosen these, straighten the handlebar, and then tighten them back, and that way you have the handlebar straight with the front wheel. But for us today, we're just going to torque them down. So the bolt on the bottom, so there's 3 of them here, the bolt on the bottom is just for that headset top cap. It's already tightened down. You don't need to touch it. So we're just going to focus on the 2 that are on the stem itself. So I'm going to leave my multi-tool in this long position here and get it in the bottom bolt and just tighten it all the way down. And then I'm going to move up to the top bolt and get that one tightened all the way down. And now to torque the bolts, I'm going to push the Allen key up so that it is in this L configuration. That's so that when I get the wrench in, I can get some leverage on the bolt. And then to get it torqued to spec, you need to turn this about 1/4 to 1/2 turn to get that bolt as tight as it needs to be. So again, there's my 1/4 turn and there's my 1/2, and that's it. The handlebar is installed. All right, so now we're ready to install the front wheel. Now this part of the assembly is tool free, so it's pretty easy to do, but there are a couple things to know. So first, I flip the bike upside down like this. It's just so that I can just drop the wheel in and tighten it down without having to worry about aligning the wheel. But before you drop the wheel in, so in the brake, there's a small plastic spacer, so you're going to want to pull that out. Now this spacer is there because these are hydraulic brakes. If the brake is pulled and there's no rotor front wheel inside, or this, the pads will go in and get stuck. They're not going to retract, and then you won't be able to install the front wheel, or if you install it, you're going to have a really bad rubbing problem. So make sure that once you remove this, that you absolutely do not pull the brake. And if you're going to remove the front wheel and put the bike in a car later, it's a good idea to hold on to this so that you can pop it in there for any kind of transport. All right. Now, if you didn't already remove the packing material from the front wheel, there's a little piece of plastic here and one here. Now, I left these on because I want to demonstrate what could happen. So sometimes you pull this off, so this time it didn't do it, but this little end cap on here can come off too. Now, if this is missing and stuck to that packing material and you throw it away, you're not going to be able to get the wheel in the fork. So you need to make sure that those little plastic or the aluminum end caps stay with the front wheel and only the plastic gets thrown away. So the same thing can happen on the side without the rotor. I'll pull it out. Again, this one stayed in, but sometimes you can pull them off because they do just slide off. Okay. All right, so slide those in. And now we're just going to drop the wheel into the fork. And when you do this, make sure the rotor slides into the brake caliper. Okay. Then in your parts box, you're going to find a quick release front skewer. So on the skewer, there's going to be a nut on one side, a lever on the other, and then 2 springs in the middle, and a little washer. So the washer stays with the lever, 1 spring goes with the lever, and then we're going to unscrew the nut, and one of the springs is going to come with it. Okay, and now we're ready to slide this into the front wheel. Okay, so it's going to slide in from the brake side. So the lever is going to go on the side with the brake, slide that in, And then the next, we're gonna put the spring on and then the nut. So on the spring, it's conical, so it's gonna be smaller on one side and larger at the other. The smaller side is gonna go in with the larger side facing out. If you put the large side in, it's gonna knock the wheel sideways, it's not gonna work right, okay? So small side in, we're gonna thread that nut into place. And then I basically am just going to tighten this all the way down. Now you don't wanna just keep tightening it like a wing nut. At some point, you're gonna wanna close the lever. So what I like to do is get the lever to where it hits tension, so as you're dropping the lever, you start to feel it get tight when the lever is facing straight out, okay? And then when you tighten it down, I like to tighten it either aligned with the fork or just in front. The problem with tightening it up against the fork is it looks better that way, but it's hard to get your hand behind to open it up. And it's always a good idea because the little washer behind this is plastic. So it's a good idea to open and close it a couple times because now as I tighten it this time, it's a little bit looser. So I'm just gonna give it a little turn on the nut, make sure it's tight again, and then pull that tight. Then also when you pull it tight, don't grab onto the rotor for leverage because you can bend the rotor. Okay, and good to go, front wheel's installed. All right, almost there. We're into the final step of assembly, which is installing the pedals. All right, now pedals are right and left specific. So the right side is gonna be the side with the chainring, the left side is gonna be the side without the drivetrain, okay? So to identify the right and left pedals, there's usually a sticker that has an R and an L for right and left. If you removed that already, that's okay. There's also, you'll see a little imprint on there with an R, a little imprint with an L, and then also the word Provello, if it's upside down, swap pedals, you have it on the wrong side, okay? Now this is important because right pedals have normal thread, left pedals are opposite thread, so they will not thread into the other arm. You have to make sure you have the right side on the right side and the left on the left, okay? So let's start with our right pedal. And now in the parts box is a standard 6mm hex key like this. There is also a 6mm on the multi-tool, but the problem is the multi-tool isn't that strong and pedals need to be very tight. So if you tighten this with this, you're probably gonna bend it, okay? So use this little guy. You will also probably see a little 6 to 8mm adapter. This is in case you buy the upgraded aluminum air pedals. Those use an 8mm, so you would pop this on here and then use it as an 8mm. But for stock pedals, 6mm, okay? Now this is also a unique pedal because normally you would put a wrench on, like a wrench flat right here, but these ones you're gonna put a hex key in from the back side. So you'll put that in just like that and you have to do it through the crank arm, okay? So we're gonna get this into here. And now since I'm threading it through the back, it's actually opposite. So I'm gonna turn it to the left and I'm just driving it in. So it's gonna go all the way. And then to tighten it, I'm gonna put it in. I like to get the crank at about 45 degrees and have the wrench aligned with it. And then if I push on the wheel, so one way it's gonna freewheel, if I push the other way, it's gonna put pressure on the crank. That gives me leverage to get the pedals really tight. So I'm gonna grab this, grab the wheel, and push them against each other, and tighten it down. That's it, all right? Now for the left pedal, same thing, except I'm gonna turn it in the other direction. So driving it in this way. So again, I'm on the back, so I'm turning it to the right. Get this guy threaded in. And then I will use that same trick to tighten it down. So the leverage on the wheel is gonna work the same way. So push on the wheel on the wrench, get it nice and tight. And that's it, pedals are installed. All right, so that's it. The bike is assembled. Now, before you put your little rider on the bike, you might need to adjust the seat. So to adjust the seat height on these bikes, it's just a quick release. So you can just open up the lever and raise or lower the seat as needed. Now, on every seat post, there is a minimum insertion mark. So make sure that that mark is down inside of the frame and you cannot see it. If there's too much out, there's no strength there. So you can break the frame, you can break the seat, and the kid can get hurt. So make sure that the seat is down into where you cannot see the minimum insertion mark. When you get the seat at the right height, make sure the tip of the seat is lined up with the frame and then close the quick release. Now, if you close it and it's too loose and you can twist the seat, you need to tighten it up a little bit. So open the lever, tighten the nut on the back side, and then just close the lever. You obviously don't want to make it too tight or you won't be able to close it. So you just have to balance that and get it tight enough to where the seat doesn't move, okay? Now, and this is really before a kid rides the bike at all. It's always a good idea to do a quick safety check before you put them on the bike. So make sure that there's air in the tires, brakes stop, And there's nothing loose on the bike, so you don't feel any wobbles, headset's not loose, no bearing systems are loose, and everything is good to go. Now, if you do run into a problem on the bike, your multi-tool has almost every size to work through this whole bike. So if you need to tighten an axle, tighten the stem, tighten the seat, all of those things are right on your multi-tool. All right, so that's it. Enjoy the bike, take care.